Hello, Adam Bazalgette here, founder of Scratch Golf Academy. Today, let's look at building a solid, repeatable golf swing, backswing in particular. Nothing's going to be complex or counterintuitive, just some simple keys. If you'll practice, you can put them into play and really benefit. Well, let's start with body motion in the backswing. It's the foundation of the golf swing. Going to get to arms and wrists here in just a minute, but if your body is unstable, moving around, you're going to have a hard time with consistency or power. You could picture throwing a ball. If you have good, strong body motion, you still have to throw it and create speed in your wrist, but bad body motion will affect your swing. Let's have a look from here in slow motion.
So as you watch my swing here, club's in a good position there, but watch the spine. There's a tiny bit of movement in the head, but overall the angle the body's pivoting on is a very consistent one. That makes it far easier to generate power, but it's far more consistent in terms of solid contact and finding the ball at the bottom when you've maintained that spine angle.
So looking for simple cues here, when you stand straight up and down like normal, turn is easy. Nothing really changes. Top of the head stays still, not quite the same when you're bent forward. So when you're bent forward like this, your trail side, for me, my right side, will elongate and get longer. That will slightly straighten this leg, but you must experience this lengthening of the rib cage, same as if you reach behind you for something. And remember, your legs are there to provide some stability. We don't want them moving all over the place, but not so much resistance that it inhibits a free pivot. So you have to practice that feel a bit. If you're staying on your axis and your head's fairly still, you're on the right track. Let's have a look at the arms and wrists. So let's think of it this way. If I'm over the golf ball here and I want to smash it into the ground, I do have some body motion and I have some arm and wrist motion. Just body motion isn't going to hit the ball very far. So my arms swing up a bit, my wrist hinge, lots of power. Obviously, we're not trying to hit down on the ball like that. We're trying to hit this side of the ball. So instead of feeling this here, using the pivot we just talked about, we pivot it that way. I'm trying to apply pressure this way, obviously, instead of that way. And if you'll practice it this way and just get away from the golf ball a little bit, you'll start to feel, hey, I would never do that if I was chopping. I'd have some arm motion, certainly some wrist cock. That's roughly the blend you're looking at from this angle. Again, we talked about the pivot a little while ago. It certainly helps if that's fairly automatic for you. And when you get there, you can find a nice simple motion allowing you to apply pressure this way. Let's look at some possible pitfalls. At the end of the video here, just shortly, we're going to talk about blending this stuff together, ways to think about that. But let's have a look at a common pitfall, the most common one I see when I teach golf, and that's just taking the club away with the hands. Almost invariably, the club starts to get behind the golfer. You no longer have a simple, efficient swing. You have to recover, you have to lift it, etc., etc. So remember, the feeling you had here, wrist cocking straight up. We talked about the body instead. We're trying to apply pressure. That's what should be taking the club back. Not in a rigid way. I'm not a tin soldier, but it's largely this that moves the unit over to here so I can hinge and again apply pressure in this direction. Now, in reality, your trail arm and wrist do fold back slightly, but for most golfers, this feeling happening over here at the side of their body is probably one of their best ones. Your hands will wind up about over your back shoulder. Let's have a look at a couple of slow motion swings just to touch on that. Then we're going to see if we can blend it together.
If you like this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing. So let's have a look. There goes the body starting it out. The club certainly does come to the inside of the ball target line, but never gets back behind the hands you see there. And at about this point, you'll start to see the wrist cock. As I said, there's a slight bend back of the right arm and elbow, but it's primarily hinging up and down. That gets us in a great slot. And if everybody's playing their role, the wrists are doing what they're supposed to do, the arm swing is moderate and it's blended with the body motion, you're going to find you have a nice, simple, repeatable golf swing.
Okay, a few final thoughts on blending this together. I am telling you, if you don't get away from the golf ball sometimes, preferably at home, grab a club, play with these ideas a bit. They're simple things, but put them together in the absence of just whacking shots at full speed. You're probably not going to discover that much. Do you see people on the driving range mostly? Ball comes over, whack, outcome, ball, whack out. It's a hard way to work on stuff. So the key is the movements themselves are very simple. We've gone through that, but there is a certain amount of timing to making it work. And even though certainly, as we've said, there is some arm swing and some wrist cock, we want everybody, the wrists, arms, trunk, to finish right about at the same time going back. So I don't want to turn and then completely do this independently. I want to get going here and then have that blend so that my arm swing and wrist cock finish right as I finish my turn, much as I do this way. I wouldn't do that and then pick my arms up. If you'll take a little time, get your pivot, get these simple motions. This is a very general video. Obviously, grip and alignment, there's a lot of things involved. But if you'll work on these things, get that timing, you really have something to take to the range and start to build a good swing.